Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for a journey that begins in a Chinese farm village and it ends with a blueprint for a post-humanity interdimensional future.
It's quite a ride.
It is. We are plunging into a set of sources that outline the philosophy, biography, and community structure surrounding the spiritual guide known as Xuefeng and his ambitious project, the New Oasis for Life.
And what's immediately crucial for you to understand is that we are not analyzing external critiques of this movement.
Right.
The source material is a singular, comprehensive document, a blend of personal history, a spiritual manifesto, and, detailed communal doctrine written almost entirely by Xuefeng himself.
So it's a self-contained universe.
It really is. It defines its own rules, its own truth.
Exactly. It's an immersion.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to unpack these truly radical, sweeping claims, from his personal moment of enlightenment to his definition of the universe's ultimate physics, and understand the structure and, I guess, the social implications of what he calls the Lifechanyuan era.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this journey, starting with the man before he became the guide.
We begin with Xuefeng, born in 1957 in the pretty impoverished Gansu province of China. And his childhood was marked by this fascinating duality that I think defines so much of his later synthesis.
How so?
Well, on one hand, you had his father, who was a hardline communist, believed strictly in the party line. But on the other, his mother was deeply devout in traditional Chinese religion. She'd frequently take him to the temple to worship local deities like the Earth God and the King of Dragon God.
Wow, that's a huge ideological gulf for a child to navigate.
It is, and his early spiritual education didn't stop there. He describes this incredibly eclectic learning environment. He was absorbing Taoist principles from his grandmother, studying Buddhism with his mother.
And didn't he also learn from other traditions?
Yeah, he even learned elements of Islam from a Muslim colleague, and later on Hindu concepts from some Indian contacts he had.
So this diverse background is really the seed for his eventual goal of, unifying all belief systems.
It seems to be. But initially, he followed a very secular, very driven path. His early career inside China was a whirlwind. He was a technician, an English teacher, a statistics officer.
A classic rise through the Chinese system.
Right. Then, in the 1990s, he got his ticket abroad. A state company sent him to Zimbabwe as an interpreter.
But he didn't stay with them for long.
Not at all. He quickly broke out on his own. He was, a quintessential entrepreneur. He was successfully operating a restaurant, a bar, a club, several shops, a fast food joint in Harare.
So by all accounts, a successful international businessman.
He was a man of the world, focused on material achievement. But all of that changed in an instant. The source material describes a really specific incident.
The car crash.
The car crash. He was driving one day, fell asleep at the wheel, and crashed his car into a large milestone right near the edge of a cliff.
Talk about a wake-up call.
It was more than that. He survived without a single scratch, an escape he just deemed miraculous.
So he didn't see it as luck.
No, he interpreted this as divine intervention. This moment marks the death of his old life. He felt his secular life had died in that car accident, and the remainder of his new life. It belonged entirely to God.
So this near-death experience became the ultimate proof of his, chosen status. And this jump-started his dedicated search for truth, right?
It did. He started his deep religious exploration by spending 3 years studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses, diligently attending services. But even after all that time, he felt a deeper, more comprehensive understanding was still missing.
He was looking for something more.
He was looking for a cosmic operating manual, not just a single religious text.
That search culminated in 1999, which he described as his moment of epiphany. He'd continued seeking answers through Taoism, Buddhism, even science, and then while reading the Diamond Sutra.
A core Mahayana Buddhist text.
Right, and it all suddenly just clicked.
And this is where the narrative really shifts from biography to transcendence. He claims that in that moment, the ultimate mysteries of the universe and humanity became totally transparent to him.
Like what specifically?
The origin of the cosmos, the nature of time and space, and the fundamental structure of life. And it's always capitalized, referring specifically to the soul essence, the non-material self.
And the sources claim this wasn't just a personal realization for him. It was a divine commission. He felt an invisible divine force compelled him to write all his discoveries on paper.
Precisely, and that compulsion produced the Chanyuan corpus and the Xuefeng corpus. We're talking about an astonishing volume of work.
How much you're talking?
Nearly 3,000 articles written over 16 years, formally published in 2010. It's an entirely new scripture defining everything.
That's a staggering amount of output. And these writings had significant visibility, too. By 2017, his column on Boxen, which is a popular Chinese political site, had racked up nearly 13 million hits.
A huge reach.
So what was the revolutionary idea, the nugget of insight that gained this kind of traction?
Well, the central idea is a total systematization of reality, bridging ancient spiritual texts with modern physics. The corpus outlines the profound truth of the universe, life, consciousness. But the most immediate revolutionary element, I think, stems from his personal philosophical engine.
Unconventional thinking.
The reverse thinking.
Yeah.
This concept came from a physical ordeal, didn't it?
It did. Decades earlier, in 1982, he was working in the Kilian Mountains and suffered severely from altitude sickness at around 4,000 meters.
That must have been intense.
That intense, painful isolation led him to deep self-reflection, where he had a philosophical realization. The world's perceived common sense is fundamentally flawed. He concluded that normality is abnormal and abnormality is normal.
That's a complete dismantling of societal assumptions. How does he apply this reverse lens to common concepts? He uses this reverse thinking to instantly undermine existing political and social structures. For instance, he inverts classic Chinese communist slogans. Labor is most glorious becomes being an official is most glorious.
Okay.
A model worker is simply an ignorant model. And most cuttingly, the idea of revolution, a sacred word in China, equates, in his system, only to deprivation.
Wow. So this framework instantly sets him in opposition to every traditional source of authority.
Completely.
So if he's rejecting the social norm, what is the new cosmic norm? He claims to have solved the ultimate physics puzzle, the universal unified field theory. Wait, is he suggesting that his reading of a Buddhist text, filtered through this reverse thinking lens, solved modern physics?
He doesn't see a gap. He claims his insight organically unified spiritual wisdom and science. He presents the universe as holographic and composed of only 3 fundamental interacting elements: consciousness, structure, and energy.
And that's it.
That's it. He claims that understanding the relationship between these 3 is the unified field theory scientists are seeking.
That's an audacious claim.
Oh, the scale is immense. He goes on to analyze the cosmos in spectacular detail, claiming knowledge of 20 parallel worlds and 36-dimensional spaces.
36 dimensions.
And he even interprets the 8 fundamental forces of the universe, arguing that modern scientists, trapped in conventional thinking, are only currently aware of 4.
Okay, so if that's the cosmic reality, how does humanity fit into it? He even revised Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is like the bedrock of modern psychology. How do you reverse that?
Well, Maslow posits that you have to achieve basic physiological needs, food, shelter, before you can move up to safety, belonging, and eventually self-actualization.
Right, build from the bottom up.
Xuefeng argues this is completely backward. He says if you start at the bottom, focusing only on material survival, you become trapped in materialism and desire. The hierarchy must be reversed.
Meaning you start with the highest needs first. What does that high vantage point provide?
He argues that starting with the spiritual realm grants the whole view. You have to establish soul wealth first. He says without soul wealth, the fundamental primary wealth, one is simply a rootless tree.
And then the other types of wealth follow.
After that comes secondary wealth, which is spiritual wealth, and only then tertiary wealth, material wealth. Material wealth is only needed so a person can live with dignity, not to define their worth.
That's a fundamentally different definition of human success. And he applies this understanding to categorize everyone in existence.
Right. He divides people into 5 distinct types based on their dominant characteristic. It's a very strict hierarchy.
What are the levels?
At the bottom are the ignorant, driven only by instincts. Above them, worldly people, driven by desires. Then you have mortals, governed by their emotions.
Okay.
Moving up, you find sages, who operate based on rationality. And finally, at the very top are the saints or celestials, who are governed by their spiritual senses.
And this structure dictates who can be reaped and who can be guided.
Exactly. Which brings us directly to his defined role.
What is the guide here to accomplish?
His mission is explicitly dual. First, he is here to reap the ripe crops. This means identifying and seeking out the celestials, those individuals who have, in his view, descended from heavenly realms.
On that second part.
Second, he is there to guide the true disciples of previous great masters, Jesus, Buddha, Laozi, Muhammad, out of this mortal plane and toward a higher existence.
And he spells out exactly where these disciples are going. It's not just heaven, it's specific.
Very specific. They are ascending to tiered realms like the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the ultimate destination, the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world.
And the ultimate outcome of all this guidance is global transformation.
Yes, the unification of all religious and belief systems under one new banner, which will usher in the Lifechanyuan era.
And this era is defined by what he terms Xuefeng-style communism. Now, when you hear communism, you might think of traditional state control, but this sounds far more radical.
It is radically different because it involves the total dissolution of traditional structures. He states that in the Lifechanyuan era, nations will vanish, religions will dissolve, political parties will disappear.
And the most controversial part.
And most controversially, traditional family structures, marriage and parenthood as we know them, will be disbanded entirely.
So what replaces them?
One global government and a singular unified lifestyle model focused entirely on the collective. The practical manifestation of this philosophy is the community he established, the new Oasis for Life.
Right, the new Oasis for Life, originally called the Second Home of Lifechanyuan, founded in 2009 in Yunnan province. It served as a real-world test case, right?
It did. Housed around 150 members across 3 farms at its peak. This is where the social engineering really hits the road.
And the blueprint for this community is truly radical.
It operates on the classical communist principle: contribute according to ability, distribute according to need. But unlike state communism, this is intimate and total. Members own nothing. The community assumes comprehensive, absolute responsibility for the individual.
So food, housing, healthcare.
All of it. Food, housing, healthcare, elder care, child rearing, education, everything.
So you give up all material possessions, but in return you receive total security and care from cradle to grave. What's the catch, or rather, what is the required contribution?
A dedication to the work ethic. Members are expected to work only 6 hours a day, but the sources emphasize there is zero tolerance for laziness or selfishness.
And the time you gain is for spiritual improvement.
Exactly. The time gained through the efficiency of communal living is meant to be devoted to spiritual and self-improvement.
And the relationships. That's the part that stands out the most. The dissolution of traditional marital relationships.
That's the key friction point with the outside world. He argues that conventional marriage creates jealousy, control, and deprivation. In the new Oasis, romantic and sexual relationships are described as free.
But there are rules.
Oh, yes. This freedom is governed by a strict caveat. No one is allowed to use the name of love to control, harm, or deprive others of their own individual freedom. It's an attempt to eliminate emotional attachment and ownership.
This entire system, from cosmic forces to relationship rules, rests on the shoulders of Xuefeng's authority. How does he justify such comprehensive total control over his followers' lives?
He addresses this directly in a 2020 article called Pride of Qualifications. He states his authority is justified by the unprecedented nature of his discoveries. He claims to have guided nearly 80 people to successfully become celestials.
So he's physically opening a path for others to follow.
That's the claim, and he believes his work is final.
Final and unsurpassable.
Absolutely. He stresses that his comprehensive analysis of the principles and essence of life capitalized is a singular, final achievement that has never been done before and can never be done again. This confidence allows him to operate as a completely independent oracle.
That's the confident side. But if we shift to his more recent material, like the 2024 Confession, we see this fascinating and radical narrowing of his focus. He seems to be purposefully limiting his own domain.
He does. He explicitly states that he lacks knowledge in all areas except the one path that matters, the spiritual process of ascension from the mortal world to the heavenly realms. He has defined his role with surgical precision.
And his declarations of boundaries are shocking, really, for someone who claims to have solved the universe. He says he will not collaborate, seek assistance, or accept advice from any person, political party, or religion.
He claims he relies only on the greatest creator.
And this is the most critical implication for the outside world, for you, the learner. He explicitly divorces himself from worldly responsibility.
He does. He says he does not concern himself with the world's pain, people's basic needs, or political affairs. His stance is, I will neither help nor harm people.
So what is his only responsibility now?
His only remaining responsibility is writing articles to guide celestials. Their actions, he says, depend entirely on their own enlightenment.
The ultimate hands-off guide. He even restricts communication, asking that anyone who wants to speak with him only discuss life and life, because apart from that, he claims he neither comprehends the rest of the world, nor does he wish to.
An absolute focus.
Just on ascension and nothing else.
So reflecting on the scope of this deep dive, you have a figure who moved from a communist farm through corporate international life, survived a near-fatal crash, and then became a self-proclaimed guide who claims to have solved the universe's mystery and laid out a total post-family, post-nation communist blueprint for the future.
It's an overwhelming narrative, and it presents itself as the only truth you need.
And that's the final point for you to consider, because Xuefeng notes in the sources that in the modern world, television, networks, newspapers are infusing mountains of information into us, far more than we can digest, thus causing indigestion, malnutrition, and ill health.
And he's the cure.
He claims his unconventional thinking provides a direct, necessary shortcut through all this cultural garbage. And this raises a really important question. What does it mean to trust a single source, even one that promises to hold the final, complete answer to the universe and life itself, in a world drowning in competing information? Is the path to truth found through unification or through critical diffusion?
A perfect thought to chew on as you navigate your own sources. Whether you choose the path of unconventional thinking or rely on traditional hierarchies, the challenge of filtering truth remains constant. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.